My name is David Silberman. I am the co-founder and CEO of Clinical Research Fastrack. I want to welcome you all. I want to thank you all for joining us. We just have a couple more minutes before we get started. So please, please, please grab a drink, get comfortable, get settled, and we are going to be talking today about what's happening in clinical research in 2021, the future of medicine. And clinical research really is the future of medicine. And I'm excited to be bringing on our guest today to join us. We're going to have Jamaica Cundiff, who is the Associate Program Director at Clinical Research Fastrack, join us as one of our panelists. And Jamaica, hello to you.
Hey, how's it going?
How are you today, Jamaica? So nice to see you this evening.
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I know our guest of honor is going to be joining us soon. It's Kasey Boyton. I am going to now bring her on as a panelist as well. And let's see if we can bring her on. Let me see if that worked.
Yay.
Here comes Kasey. Kasey is going to be joining us all the way. Hello, Kasey. It's so nice to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to be getting started in just a minute. But why don't you tell us, where are you zooming in from, Kasey?
I am zooming in from Atlanta, Georgia.
That's fabulous. We love, at least I'm speaking for myself. I love Atlanta, Georgia. We have held many classes. We used to hold classes in person, Kasey, and I didn't get the chance to meet you in person in Atlanta, but Jamaica and I were in Atlanta. I feel like it was about a year ago, right, Jamaica?
Yeah, or February at least. So.
And we held our classes right there in Buckhead. I'm sure you know where Buckhead is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So they were nice. It was a nice class, in a nice facility. Where were you? Like across from Linux or?
So we were in where we were holding it at a hotel, and it was Hampton Inn and Suites, and it was right near the mall, right along. I'm sorry, I forget the name of that road. Everything is Peachtree or
Piedmont.
There you go.
Yep.
Yeah. So it was fabulous. So it is the hour, and I want to get started. I want to welcome all of you who have joined us today on this Thursday afternoon. Once again, my name is David Silberman. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Clinical Research Fastrack. I also have our Associate Director with us, Jamaica Cundiff. Jamaica, why don't you come off and say hello?
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. I can't believe it's our last webinar for 2020.
This is our last webinar of 2020. It's December, and it's been quite a year, folks. I'm going to share my screen really quickly, and here we are. This is our last webinar, Clinical Research in 2021, the future of medicine. And it's my great honor today to introduce Dr. Kasey Boyton. Do we call you doctor now?
Not yet. No, not yet.
So you are in the process of completing your DRPH, which is a clinical PhD.
I'm a candidate, so I have to defend my dissertation still.
Well, good luck to you. Good. We wish you the best of luck in that. But Kasey has had a storied career in clinical research, and we're so privileged to have you join us. Just a quick introduction of Kasey, and then I'm gonna turn the floor over to you and ask you some questions. But I know, Kasey, you started out as a project lead at Rush UMC, and since that time you were a CRA, you were a senior CRA, you're a clinical project manager. You've had all of these roles at different companies along the way, and now you're a global project lead at Syneos Health. And for our audience who doesn't know, Syneos Health is one of the largest contract research organizations in the world. It's on the NASDAQ. I think it's a $7 billion organization with an incredible reputation. And I know we can't hear the audience, but if we could, I want everyone to give a warm welcome, a round of applause to Kasey Boyton. Kasey, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a great pleasure to have you.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Great. So to get started, what we want to do is just, I want you to answer two questions, but let's start with you. How did you get into the field of clinical research? And how did you, what was your evolution of your career to get where you are today?
Yeah, sure. So I'll answer that briefly, but also very candidly. I got into clinical research via osmosis. Probably like a lot of us. It's a field that you don't learn about growing up. It's not something where it's like, oh, when I grew up, I want to be a clinical researcher. Like very few people say that. But what I think a lot of us say is when I grow up, I want to help people, right? I want to be a part of helping other people. I want to be in the health industry and I want to make an impact. And so that was me. I was somebody who said, I want to help people.
So we hear that from a lot of people. So many people out
Right.
there want to help people. They want to make an impact, but then what? So what did you do then?
Right. And so I got a job at a hospital as just an entry level kind of associate coming in. And they said, this is a great way to get some visibility into different roles in a hospital setting. I looked at nursing. I looked at clinical research. I looked at operations, and I said, what's a really good fit for my personality and my interest? And me specifically, I'm very interested in science, but there's also a part of me that's interested in business. And the wonderful thing about clinical research is you do have this hybrid of skills that you can bring. And so I networked and I used all of my friends at Rush University Medical Center to find an opportunity working in research at the hospital. And so I joined actually as a coordinator and then was promoted to being a project lead.
So can I stop you there? You said coordinator. What exactly is a coordinator for people who are interested, who are logging on? You started as a coordinator.
So in general, there's a lot of different things that the role is, but for me as a clinical research coordinator, I was responsible for executing clinical trials and research projects with patients. And so one of the distinguishing facts about a coordinator compared to a lot of different roles in the industry is that you get that hands-on patient interaction. You're responsible for working with the principal investigator to consent a patient to be a part of research. You may get phlebotomy training. I got phlebotomy training as a coordinator as well. And so when we needed to draw blood from patients for our research, we did that. But, as a coordinator, you do a lot. Your goal is to recruit patients. It's to document all of the information that's required for the research. So you have to have some fluency with medical records and being able to review records and document that. A lot of it is engaging the community. And then also working with your pharma companies, working with your CROs to make sure that a clinical research project is executed within the timeline that it's supposed to.
Excellent. So you're a coordinator, and how long were you in that role? A year or two, or how long did you do that for?
I did it for 3.5 years, but I did get promoted. So this particular position, there were several research projects, and the cool thing about being in academia and being like a coordinator, aside from just getting to work with the patients and that being just incredibly fulfilling and fun, you also, get to be a part of like very missional things, right? And passionate and you get to specify and you get to be very specific about your kind of therapeutic interest. And so this particular grant that I was on had several kind of opportunities for me to learn and to grow. This grant was interested in high risk individuals who were at risk for HIV, and then individuals who did not have or who had HIV. And so because of the nature of that population and kind of the transient nature of, folks who are living this risky lifestyle, we got to develop all of these really cool strategies for recruitment. And you'll hear about that and how to recruit patients and how to keep them in the trial. And we even developed a clinical research bus. And we drove around on this bus.
Oh, wow, that is cool. That is super creative.
And we would do our research visit on the bus. And so if we found our patients in the city of Chicago, this is in the city of Chicago, if you can only imagine, driving around on this bus and having all of your clinical research tools, your blood pressure cuffs, your phlebotomy, driving around and going door to door, basically looking for patients. It was really cool. And so I really got to help design how to do really novel research and outreach techniques, which was really cool.
So I know a lot of people who are listening in and viewing, they want to really understand what's going on in clinical research, how they can move up in their career. So you were doing that. You gained a lot of experience in that role. You're there for 3.5 years, getting promoted to like more senior level coordinator positions. And then where did you go from there? What happened next?
Yeah, so I was a project lead. I got promoted to project lead, which meant I was just overseeing multiple projects, doing the same types of really, coordinating activities. And then I actually moved to Atlanta. And I moved to Atlanta because I always tell people that life happens at the same time as your career. And so
yes, it does.
Yeah, it does. And so
but you did both, right? You stayed in both.
Well, and you can do both in clinical research, right? Because it's global, it's everywhere. And I was like, I have all of this experience at Rush. That should work. That's translatable directly to the research that's happening at Emory, right? And at Children's Healthcare in Atlanta. And so I moved to Georgia, but was really a strategy move because one of the things that I realized was that, I'm just be very frank with all of you on the call, I felt like I wanted to go into the industry side because I felt like that was more lucrative.
Okay. So you are on the industry side now. So just to define that, when you started out at Rush, you're kind of academic research, you're working with HIV patients, and then you go to CHOA, Children's Hospital Atlanta, where you're actually working again with patients who are at the Emory CHOA sort of partnership hospital. But industry is more the pharmaceutical industry and the CRO side, right? That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And so I knew that I was making a lateral move with the intention to pivot, right? And so I was going from one academic site to the other, but I knew that my goal was that I wanted to get into the pharma side. And that was for several reasons. And this is just my personal journey. In academia, outside of being a coordinator, it sometimes can be challenging to kind of grow in that field. And that's because the limitations are, in academia, most of the leadership roles are PhDs, right? And so if you're interested in being in that PhD level, then I certainly recommend academia. If that's something that you're interested in doing and being an investigator yourself, definitely go down that road. I'm sure that there are folks on here that would love that. And so for me, it made a lot of sense to pivot into industry because of that upward mobility, right? And the opportunities for that. And so I got involved with a network that you all might know about, which is the Society of Clinical Research Associates.
SOCRA, we call that SOCRA, and you guys can go online and look up SOCRA. It's SOCRA.org, I think, SOCRA.
Yeah, and we have an Atlanta chapter, but we probably have a chapter in the city that you live. So it's a huge organization, and it's brilliant. It's a network, and it's also a clinical research kind of certification program. And so after your clinical research fast track, then you can go and get this certification that really says, hey, I know ICH-GCP, I know patient safety.
Yeah, and to get that, you have to be in the field for about 2 years. So you had already been in the field for 4 by then, right?
Exactly, yeah. So to get that certification, you have to give a couple, you give a couple years, and then you go and get that certification, which makes you incredibly marketable, right? Just across the board, because they realize, okay, this person knows their stuff. And so through networking at SOCRA, I met someone who was working at a biopharmaceutical company in Atlanta, and they said, hey, we want you to come over here and be a senior clinical research associate.
Wow. And you jumped right into a senior CRA role.
I did. And sales, right? You can't be afraid to sell yourself. And so I definitely can say that not in any of these roles and jumps that I've taken, I was never qualified in the conditional sense of like, I felt like I could learn things, I felt like I would be good at learning. And so I always encourage people to take risk. Just because you don't feel like you know everything doesn't mean that you won't be great at the job. And so, yes, so I interviewed for the senior clinical research position, which was really senior clinical research associate. And it was really great because in a small pharmaceutical company like the one that I worked at, where there's only 800 people, you know, you get to do a lot of different things. So I was a senior CRA. So I did what senior CRAs do, which in general, CRAs come to sites and they monitor coordinators, right? And so they come to the site to make sure that the data that's being entered in the system actually matches the source data. And they also assist the site with any questions that they have about the protocol.
You make it sound easy, Kasey. It's like, oh yeah, you just make sure the source matches the data in the system.
Yeah,
that's it.
that's
And
it.
everybody wants to be a CRA, but I want everyone to know on this call that you put a few years in first before you became a CRA. You really need experience to do that.
Yeah, I put 4 years in before I was able to become a CRA. And really, like I said, I was more prepared because of the exposures that I had when I was a coordinator. Um, because like I said, when you're in a small biopharmaceutical company, you do a lot of things. You help writing the protocol, you help designing the trial, you help recruit PIs, right? So when you have a biologic or a drug and you need to get, academic centers interested or private practices, you have to recruit the PIs. So at the site level, you recruit the patients. At the sponsor level, you recruit the PIs, right? Or at the CRO level.
Mm-hmm.
So same skills, right? So you can sell it. You can sell,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I recruited patients, I can recruit PIs as well, right?
Beautiful. So you did that, you're senior CRA, but that was over at another company. So how did you get to where you are today? You went to Syneos and now you're a global project lead. So how did you get to Syneos and what is a global project lead?
Yeah, so thanks for asking. So back to the life thing where your life happens at the same time as your career. When I moved to Atlanta, I'm so excited to share that I met my now husband.
Congratulations.
And thank you. Yeah, it's been some years now, but thank you. He's awesome. And so I met him quickly and he was like, well, I want to move to Germany. And I was like, wait, what? Like, I'm not prepared in my career to move to Germany. But him kind of planting that seed of like maybe living abroad made me start thinking even bigger about what I wanted to do and where I needed to be. And I realized that in the CRO industry, in contrast to pharma, in the CRO industry, you can work anywhere. I work from home right now. Our company, Syneos Health, very much like IQVIA, very much like Icon and Covance and all of our competitors, are about 60% remote. And we're global companies. And so I said, well, I really need to get into a CRO if I'm going to be able to live the life that my husband wants to live and build my career, right? Because I never wanted to sacrifice my career. And I know that, plenty of people can say that, right? I want these relationship goals, or whatever goals, but I don't want to sacrifice my career. And so I did some networking again. And, it can be challenging to get into a CRO at a non-entry level position. And so I decided to go to a smaller CRO before going to Syneos. And so I joined a small CRO that was running clinical trials and doing a lot of really cool technology trials using AI and real world evidence and, synthetic control arm design trials, like really cool data driven clinical research, which of course is exactly where we are with COVID, right? And trying to use data.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's so important. And being able to work remotely during COVID is so important too.
Crucial. It's
So you
crucial.
haven't really missed a beat. And how long were you at this smaller CRO?
I was there for a year and a half
Uh-huh.
before I got recruited into my dream company. And that is Syneos Health.
And how long have you been there?
This month is 19 months. 19 months.
Okay, wow. So it hasn't been that long. Did you ever go to Germany? Have you been to Germany yet?
No, no, he changed his mind.
Oh no.
But we are thinking about moving to Spain. And I've talked to my company about it, and they say, great, you can live in Spain. It's no big deal. And so I have coworkers who have done a year in Spain in Madrid or, a year here, a year there. And so Never went to Germany, but I did get recruited to Syneos, which is something that I really, really wanted because I wanted to be in the CRO. And I did recently get promoted, even at Syneos, so that was pretty fun.
Wait, and that's to this global project lead. Is that your new title, or are you something more now?
No, I was the global project lead always. I was a project manager, now I'm a senior project manager. And then global project lead is like it's the project that I'm on. So it's distinguishing what kind of project I'm on, or I'm working on a study right now that's recruiting 6,000 patients, and it's a phase 3, and it's in 18 countries. So it's huge.
Okay, so that was going to be my next question. You're a global project lead. You're in 16 countries?
18.
18
6,000
countries,
patients.
6,000 patients, phase 3. Are you allowed to tell what therapeutic area? I know there's a lot of confidentiality, so I don't want to breach anything, but I'm just curious. So if I ask you this top secret question, just don't worry, you don't have to answer.
Well, I'll tell everyone that Pfizer is our strategic partner at Syneos Health. So we've been running a lot of Pfizer trials.
We've heard of Pfizer a lot recently.
Yeah.
So was Syneos involved in running these COVID vaccine trials?
Very involved. Yeah.
Wow.
We have 43 COVID trials right now.
So when we hear about Pfizer running the trials, really it's Syneos doing it on behalf of Pfizer.
Right. Which is what CROs do. Right?
That's really exciting.
It's so cool.
Here we are with Kasey Boyton. She's the global project lead with Syneos Health, and they are basically the project arm for Pfizer running all of these COVID-19 trials. Wow, we couldn't have brought you on at a better time, Kasey. This is so exciting. Yeah. So what is the relationship with Pfizer? You guys work very closely together then?
Yeah, so that's our strategic partner. So that's common knowledge. That's something that you can find in a paper. We have, some of these larger pharma companies will create strategic partnerships with CROs and say, this is who we work with, right? This is our preferred vendor, and we go to them for our studies. And so Pfizer is our strategic partner. BMS is also one of our strategic partners, where we manage a huge, Allergan was another, and of course they just merged. But where we manage a huge portfolio of projects for these individual organizations across multiple therapeutic areas. And so across oncology, you ask what therapeutic area I work in. I actually work in central nervous system and ophthalmology. So the trial is CNS.
So it's not just infectious disease and vaccine, There's oncology, ophthalmology, everything. CNS trials. That is really interesting. You're the strategic partner. I don't want to embarrass you, but I have this picture of you right here. I'm going to show the slide. Here is a picture of you, even though we can see you live. And you're at Syneos Health. Tell us, what is it like working for a large CRO? How do you like it?
It's awesome. I love it. It's like I said, it's my dream job. It's also my dream company. And one of the reasons that I love it is because it is so global, right? I think that you're working with people all over the world at any given time of day. Just the sheer amount of excellence coming out of an organization like that in terms of the work that we're doing and the impact that we're making in a lot of therapeutic areas is really important. And I think that, Syneos Health is so missional. They're constantly reminding you, like, behind everything that we do are patients, right? Behind everything that we do are individuals who are really desperate for the treatment that we're able to bring to them. And so really relying on that backbone, on that culture has been really important. I also love it because I think in a company with 25,000 people, it's easy to feel like a cog in a wheel, where you're just kind of churning. But there are, what's wonderful about Syneos Health is that there's so many opportunities to be a part of the community, even though we're global, right? And be, contributing to things and contributing to the culture. And right now I'm leading an employee resource group, for example. It's called the Black Employee Resource Group for the entire company. So I work directly with the executive team, work directly with the Chief Human Resources Officer, on building initiatives that are going to increase DE&I at our company, right? And so even though we're in this large organization and we're very fast paced, and we work super hard, there really still is this kind of sense of community that I think is really important. And I think
kudos to Syneos for doing that, because being part of a 25,000 deep organization, yeah, that's you can just be a number, but the fact that you guys are connected and you're working hard, you're involved in these initiatives, that's huge. So I just want to let people know that you don't get to be a company like Syneos unless you really take care of your employees and everyone's working really hard for a common goal. I know you're all trying to make an impact. I want to shift gears a little bit because we're supposed to talk about the future of clinical research. And the exciting thing about this is we're looking at what's going to be happening in 2021, but the future of clinical research is now.
Yeah.
And we're living the future of medicine today. So can you talk a little bit about some exciting projects that are happening or you see coming either today or maybe next month?
Yeah, so I did get a question that I'm going to respond to it. When I got into research, I had a bachelor's in chemistry. But any bachelor's degree will probably do for a clinical research role. Then I ended up getting a master's in business, which really serves me in this project lead role. And then, working on this doctorate of public health, which will serve me, for the next role that I'm going after. Because I'm not going to always be a project.
So for all of you who are watching, take notes because she's already a global project lead. I mean, that's extremely high up in this organization, but she's not stopping. She's furthering her education. She's looking at the future for herself too. And this is a field, if you haven't already gathered, that there's so much room for growth. Yeah. You can go, the sky is the limit. And Kasey, your story is so awesome, but it's also the story of so many of the instructors that come to Clinical Research Fastrack, where they're getting promoted every couple of years. They're moving up into areas they're really interested in. Some people stay for a while, for maybe 10 years in a role they absolutely love, and others just keep getting promoted and moving up. But there really is so many different opportunities. But let's go back to what's happening now.
Cool stuff. So right now, because of COVID, right, and COVID's kind of pushed everyone to where we were already going, right? But the big thing right now is decentralized trials, right? And creating something that's called virtual sites, right? And this has always been a limitation of clinical research. I mean, I always share with people kind of, when you're hearing about research trials, you always have to ask yourself, what are the methods, right? How are they doing this? When you think about a vaccine trial, for example, like COVID, that comes back 95% efficacious. You have to think about, how do they do vaccine trials, right? They give someone the vaccine, and for a vaccine, you can't infect them with COVID, right? That's not ethical. We all know about why that's unethical in clinical research. And so the only way that they get data is they just have to observe these people, right? And see, do they get COVID symptoms, right? And I think that some of the limitations of that are that, it's really hard to know if they were exposed to COVID, right? And so when you're thinking about developing trials, you have to ask yourself, what are the methods and what's ethical? And because people are hesitant to go into offices, because COVID has created this whole kind of scare to be in the hospital, we've had to think about how to decentralize trials, right? How to use data to develop really cool therapies, but also to develop really cool research projects. And so one of the things that I've been working on, which is really cool, is for leukemia as the indication. And we've basically developed a synthetic control arm study, right? And so if you think about a randomized clinical trial, and you think about having a control group that gets the drug and a placebo group that doesn't, that's not actually ethical in oncology, right? You can't not give someone treatment when they need it. But how can we use real world data and claims data to run a trial, basically like a simulated trial, using data alongside a randomized trial, which is really the buzz in research, right? It is how can we use data to create, it's really called a synthetic control arm in a study, which hopefully that resonates with some folks and is interesting.
So can we say that again? A synthetic control arm. So you're creating a placebo group, an imaginary placebo group using data to simulate. That's fascinating.
Real data though, real data,
Yeah,
right?
real data.
Real data from real people, but running it like an algorithm. So it's really neat. And, you know, a lot of things that they're talking about, and I know artificial intelligence is really important, right? And I work in ophthalmology, and I'm working on a study that's using artificial intelligence, and looking at the eye to detect predisposition for diabetes. I mean, that is so cool that your eye can tell you if you're predisposed to diabetes is just, it's phenomenal. And
So you're talking about the future. You're seeing technology really paving the
absolutely.
way for these new developments, and you're using it right now. This isn't
Yeah,
tomorrow. This isn't
no, these are real studies. Yeah, yeah.
That is
It's
so exciting. Before we go on, I want to let everyone know if you have questions for Kasey, you can put them into the Q&A or the chat. And Jamaica is here. She's going to field your questions because I know that there's so many people out there. You have an incredible career. You've been in clinical research for a while, and people have questions about different roles in clinical research, about how to get into the field, about all sorts of things. So please type your questions into the chat as we continue to discuss what you're doing at Syneos Health, but also the future. I have these slides that I just wanted to share. They're really cool. We're looking at what's happening and I just went on your website at Syneos, and it looks like you're involved with 336 infectious disease studies.
Yeah.
14,000 sites. Those numbers are astounding. Kasey.
Yeah.
You talk about being part of a global organization. This is just in your vaccine network. You've already done 709 studies, enrolling 49,000 patients. That's pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's incredible. And I think, and when hopefully everybody understands what that catalyst means, right? But a catalyst site, and you may find yourself at a catalyst site, means that you have a strategic partnership with Syneos, right? And so we've built a relationship. So we know when we say, hey, we have this study, it's in this disease area, or say it's in this therapeutic area, say it's a flu shot or Ebola or whatever it is in this vaccine space, we've already got agreed upon language. We've already got agreed upon budget parameters, and you're a site that can have a patient enrolling in a month, which is pretty phenomenal.
So I guess I didn't realize this relationship, but many of our students are working at what we call site networks and research sites around the country. Yeah. And we have instructors who come from those sites to teach our students. And many of them are working on the vaccine trials. In fact, the Pfizer vaccine trials. So it must be that these sites and site networks are your catalyst, part of your catalyst network. And I'm just connecting all these dots. So when our students get hired by these site networks, Syneos is facilitating, is the CRO that's bringing that trial to that site. And that's where it all gets started. And then our students go on actually to work at places like Syneos and PPD, Covance. We have our students working both at these sites, CROs, and at pharmaceutical companies as well. So, and just for everyone listening, I don't know if I mentioned this early, Kasey is one of our instructors. We always enjoy having you come teach. And then you get to be with everyone for more than just this short amount of time. But before we go to the questions, I just wanted to see if you had anything else coming up, 2021. It's going to be a new year. Hopefully it's bringing a lot of optimism and hope for us all. What do you see coming in 2021?
Well, I see a vaccine coming in 2021. So the COVID vaccine is coming, which is pretty exciting. I think that we're going to see a lot of changes, right, in how people respond to clinical research, because COVID has put a huge spotlight on this industry. And it said, hey, this stuff matters. This is important. And the amount, just the sheer volume of people that are hiring for clinical research has just shot up astronomically. And it's going to continue to grow. The industry itself and individuals who are now realizing the value of being a part of clinical research studies to advance medicine is going to continue to grow. And I do think that, as I mentioned, technology and technology partnerships, you're going to continue to see those. So, for example, Syneos Health just created a partnership with Concert AI, and that partnership is using technology to help advance oncology trials. You're going to continue to see that.
It's so exciting what's happening in our industry. And when I talk to people like you, Kasey, it just opens my eyes even more. I'm seeing so many questions now. Jamaica, can you come off mute and can you maybe ask a couple questions, and we can help Kasey out too, because I saw this one question: what is the difference between a sponsor, CRO, SMO, institution, and IRB? That's such a good question. Come take our class, our program. We go in depth talking about all of these, but basically the sponsor is usually the pharmaceutical company like Pfizer. The CRO is a contract research organization like Syneos Health. And then the trial is run at places like SMOs or at research sites or academic institutions. And then there's always an IRB that's overseeing the safety of the patients in all of these trials for everything. That's a quick answer for that one. But Jamaica, what else do you got for us?
Yeah, there are tons of great questions. You are amazing, Kasey.
Oh, thanks.
But I would love to kind of combine a few questions into one. So there's a couple questions that ask, can you get into the industry without a non-science related degree? What are the requirements to get into the door? And what are some key skill sets that really help you be successful? So I feel like it's kind of all balled into one. So
what do you need to get in the field, Kasey? What do you need?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, so you can get into clinical research with an associate's degree, right? You can get into Syneos with an associate's degree. To be at an academic site in general, to be a CRC, you tend to need a bachelor's, right? Most CRCs are going to have their bachelor's degree, not all, but most. And any general field should be enough, because the great thing about clinical research, especially at the CRO space, is it's not just one role, right? You can go into clinical research and spend your whole life doing data and being a data manager. I don't know why you would want to do that, but
you'd be surprised, Kasey. We have students coming in our class just to be data managers. In fact, we had a student, I don't know if you taught SUMED, he was getting a master's in data management at NYU.
Oh, cool.
And he said he learned more in our program than he did at NYU. And then he went straight from our program, and now he is at Beth Israel Hospital in Harvard. And and they work together. But some people like data management.
Yeah. And you can get into it, and that's a perfectly awesome thing. There are roles where your whole responsibility is recruiting sites. It's kind of a startup role in a CRO. And so to be in those roles, you don't have to have a bachelor's, but I would say a bachelor's is a good start. In a general bachelor's, I've seen folks who've had bachelor's in communication who are in a CRO. I've seen them with bachelor's in, you've got a science degree, that's great, or political science or business. I mean, really, the skills that you need to be excellent in clinical research, you're learning at Clinical Research Fastrack. Those are the skills. And there's not another university that's going to teach you as much about clinical research as Clinical Research Fastrack will teach you. That is the training that you really need, to be honest.
Yeah, and thanks for mentioning that. But it used to be people could just fall into research. I know you probably you just got out of college, you got into a role. It's not like that. It's a little more complicated in clinical research now, and everybody wants to hire someone. All the jobs say 2 years of experience. But once someone comes to our course, which they can complete in just 3 weeks, they're going right into roles. And we just completed a class on Saturday and they haven't completed, but they were in the classroom. They finished up Saturday. They're doing some post study. We've already have interviews and people getting hired from just not even a week.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of demand for trained and qualified people. But if you just try to go in on your own, it's a really, really tough game. So that's why we created this program.
Yeah, it can be challenging, and you're right. I mean, I think that they're also, a lot of people want research experience, which can tend to be a barrier. I think that, the key to success, again, is what we were talking about. I think of two keys, right? I think of the key to success for upward mobility is, networking and having the confidence to sell yourself, right? And to realize that, in my opinion, all jobs are sales. Everything that you do is sales, because being able to sell yourself and advocate for yourself is just an incredible skill that's really hard, that you learn by practice. And to be good in the clinical research space, I would say flexibility. Because research goes every which direction on a given, COVID has thrown us, all kinds of curveballs in terms of how we were going to do research. And a year ago, we would have never expected, that we were going to have patients going to these decentralized sites, right? We created these COVID stations for one of my projects where patients didn't want to go to the hospital, but they would go to a station that was like near their area and do their research and then go home, right? And we called them COVID stations.
Yeah.
I never thought little igloos.
Yeah. So learning how to sell yourself, being flexible and adaptable. I think we've learned everyone needs to be flexible in this time. It's so important. Let's go to more questions, Jamaica. What other questions have you seen from the audience for Kasey?
Yeah, I'm also seeing kind of a repetitive question, but worded differently. But what about individuals with a little bit of a higher education, master's or PhD? What type of roles are available to them as entry level, with or without training, right? Just going in there by yourself, or rather, if you do go get experience, is there ways that having a higher degree can aid?
Let me start, and Kasey, then you can tag along, because we have had many, many PhDs go through our program. And the reason why is they were applying to clinical research roles. They might have had great careers on the bench in the labs, and then they try to get into clinical research where they really want to be, and they're not able to get in. And they just need that a little extra training, support, and connections. We know people around the country in the industry, and we just introduce them, and then they're able to get in, get started, and really excel. So having a PhD is great once you're in the field already and you're gaining experience, but it doesn't get you in. So we provide that bridge to help open those doors for people. But what else? What can they do once they're in the field, Kasey? What can you do with those higher degrees?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on what you want to do, right? And so I think for someone, like I said, who has a PhD, you may have interest in being an actual PI, a principal investigator, right? Or you may have interest, the role that I'm interested in right now is being a therapeutic expert, right? And so if you have a PhD in, pharmacology or something like that, you might be better as an expert who's working with the doctors, who's working with the PIs, and who's working with the sponsor company to develop the trials, right? To develop the protocol, or to do medical writing. Medical writing is a great role. It's in clinical research, and CROs and sponsors always need medical writers or biostatisticians, if that's something that you're interested in. To me, that's like data management. Steer clear. But medical writing is like a phenomenal field that can be really fun. And please do share these roles.
These are some roles: regulatory, data management. Do you have other questions, Jamaica? We only have a couple more minutes.
Right. Yeah. And so I was just going to kind of ask, but you put it up on the screen. What are some other entry level roles outside of CRC?
Yeah. So project specialist is a really great entry level role. It's kind of a precursor to getting on the operations side of clinical research. And it's an entry level role that's got incredible upward mobility, right? It puts you directly on the path to being in a leadership position in 10 years. And so that's a great entry level role. There's also like a clinical trial assistant, who's also going to be doing the operations component. One of the things that I didn't see on there is study startup. So there's an entirely different group of folks who work on starting a study, and that has to do with like recruiting the sites and doing all of the, legal and contract and budget negotiations that you'll do at a coordinator site. That's another role that's really phenomenal and that you can get into if you're interested. You can also at the site level become a research assistant, which is like maybe sometimes one level before coordinator. Sometimes they're interchanged, but sometimes that can be an entry-level role that's really good for a lot of folks. And you all had on the screen like data specialist is another great entry-level role that can kind of introduce you to the world of clinical research, and regulatory specialist. And so we have a huge regulatory department, and there are companies that are just regulatory consulting for clinical research because it's so dense when it comes to regulatory. So those are always really good options.
Incredible. There's an incredible number of opportunities once you get in the field. I'm going to share this. I just went on LinkedIn. There's 43,000 jobs available across the country. There's a shortage of trained clinical research professionals. To get in the field, all you need is the training, industry knowledge, experience, connections, and the support. And that's what we provide at Clinical Research Fastrack. It's hard to get in this field on your own, but once you're in, Kasey could be your instructor. She comes and joins us to teach, which is so, so exciting every time she does. And this is a field that is growing. And this is also a field where we are providing hope. This has been a tough year, 2020. I think it's been a tough year for all of us. And I want you all to take down our phone number, our email, or you can go to our website. No one's standing by now, so you can't call us right now. But tomorrow morning, we will be in the office, or next week for the first couple of days before the holidays take over. And please feel free to reach back out to us. Our phone number is 602-883-7944. And you can email us also at contact@clinicalresearchfastrack.com. I'll leave this up for just one more minute, but what we're going to have to close out today. Kasey, I want to thank you so much for joining us. This has been a really informative 45 minutes. It flew by for me.
It did.
I have been riveted the whole time, but I just want to emphasize that 2021 is a new year, and this is a year where we have to enter it with optimism and hope and healing, and clinical research is leading the way. Wow. So Kasey Boyton from Syneos Health, all the way from Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, and you guys, if you want to look me up on LinkedIn, like feel free to find me. I'll answer your individual questions because I do see more coming in, and I'm happy to answer them. And in terms of hope, I just want to tell you all, I get a recruiter reach out to me at least once a week about trying to get me at some other company. And so once you get into research, you'll find that there's a world of opportunities. And I landed in project management and kind of the operations role, but there's so many great things that you're going to learn at Clinical Research Fastrack that may pique your interest. And there's a space for that. So I would encourage everyone to go after that space and pursue it because it's worth it.
All right. Well, on that note, Kasey, thank you again for joining us. Jamaica, thank you for being here with us. I want to wish you all a happy holidays, a happy new year. Stay safe and keep in touch, everyone. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.